Hi everyone, Jack from Maths Forge here. In today's lesson, we're going to be doing prime factorization. So let's take a look at the first example. We're being asked to write 48 as a product, so this means multiplication, as a product of its prime factors in index form. So we'll break this down bit by bit, and I'll show you how to actually approach the question. So the first thing that you do is you write down the number 48. And we're going to use prime factor trees to actually solve this problem. So step one, ask yourself, and this is the way I like to do it, what is the smallest number you can divide into 48 other than 1? And in this case, it's 2. You can divide 2 into 48. And of course, if you divide 2 into 48, you'll end up with 24. Now, this 2 here is a prime number. And to actually be more precise, it is a prime factor of 48. And so once you've actually written down a prime factor, you can't break them down any further. They stay as they are. But this 24 can still be broken down further. And you ask yourself the question again, what's the smallest number other than 1 you can divide into 24? And in this case, it's 2 again. And if we do 24 divided by 2, we end up with 12. And so you keep doing this, asking yourself what's the smallest number you can divide into 12 and the following number until you end up with the following. So 12, the smallest number I can divide into it is 2. That breaks it up into 6. 6, the smallest number I can divide into it is 2 again, and that breaks it up into a 3. Now, once you've reached a final number, and how you know it's the final number is because it's also a prime number, you stop. And if you can actually see what's happening here, you have accumulated a bunch of prime factors that all come down from 48. They all stem down from 48. And if you always break it up into the smallest possible number other than 1, then you end up with your prime factors looking like this hockey stick. And so once you've reached the final number, which is also a prime factor, so there's 3, you can now write down 48 as a product, as a multiplication of its prime factors. All of these numbers here are prime factors of 48. So this is how you write it down. 2 times 2, so these 2 here, and then this third 2, and then this fourth 2. So we're writing them down as products now. We're writing 48 down as a product, and then we finally have a times 3. Now, if the question did not ask to leave your answer in index form, then this would be your final answer. But since the question is asking us to write it in index form, we do the following. We write 2 to the power of 4, because we have 4 2's being multiplied together. And then we have a times 3 at the end, times 3. And this cannot be simplified further. This is what it means to write your answer in index form. So if they ever ask you to write it in index form, simplify it using indices, using powers. And if we check our answer, there it is. Now let's do a 2-star example. So we're being asked to write 9 as a product of its prime factors in index form. So you start with 9. What's the smallest number other than 1 you can break this down to? Well, it's not 2, but it can be 3 because you can divide 9 by 3. And what will this give us? It will give us 3. And that's it. It's just very straightforward. You've now broken down 9 into its prime factors. It's 3 times 3. But since they want it in index form, it's going to be 3 to the power of 2 because you're multiplying 3 by itself twice. And if we check our answer, there it is. 3 to the power of 2 is the final answer. Let's do a 3-star question. So we're asked to write 126 down as a product of its prime factors in index form. Okay, so the smallest number I can break up 126 into other than 1 is 2 because it's an even number. It ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. And if we divide it by 2, we end up with the following, 63. And now 63, what's the smallest number we can break this into? Well, it can't be 2 because it's an odd number. So can we break it up into 3? Well, yes, we can. 6 plus 3 is 9, and 9 is a multiple of 3. So it can be divided by 3. Now, what's 63 divided by 3? Well, I know 60 divided by 3 is 20, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So it must be 21. And now let's break up this 21 We can't divide it by 2, but we can divide it by 3. And of course, 21 divided by 3 is equal to 7. And since this number here, 7, is a prime number, we have finished breaking down 126 into its prime factors. Now let's write 126 as products of its prime factors. So it's going to be 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. And since we're being asked to write this in index form, the final answer is going to be 2 times 3 to the power of 2 times 7. And if we check our answer, there it is. And that's it for prime factorization. So just a few things to remember. Always try and break down the number given into the smallest possible factor, other than 1. If you can break it down into 2, do that. If you can't, try the next number up, 3, and so on and so forth. And if you always break it down into the smallest possible number, you'll end up with the prime factors looking like a hockey stick. And they're the numbers that you're going to multiply together to write down the 126 as the product of its prime factors. And don't forget, if the question asks you to write it in index form, simplify it into index form, which is numbers with powers.